best version of ourselves is the one that's submitted, the one that denies yourself, the one that loves God, that loves others, and also loves yourself.
Yeah.
But love yourself is not a command because it's an assumption.
Welcome to the Holy and Healthy Podcast, a podcast to help each of us live out the life that God has called us to live. If you enjoyed this podcast or today's episode, please leave us a review and share it with others. We hope you enjoy our conversation today.
Welcome to another episode of the Holy and Healthy Podcast. My name is Hunter Perry, and I am here with my friend Caleb. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Mentally, I'm doing well. My body is recovering.
Yeah, you were sick this weekend, huh?
From being sick this weekend. So if I sound a little congested or nasally, that's why.
Yeah. The girls were okay, though, right?
Yeah, girls are good. Alex is good. Everybody's doing well. It was just me, which is both good and bad because I'm not as helpful when I'm sick. I'm a little grumpier.
Well, us guys, when we get sick, we're just not helpful at all.
Yeah, so I really tried to pull it together this weekend. I think I was more helpful than I've ever been when I've been sick.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So. I was telling Carly on our retreat that we just went on as a staff for sermon planning that I couldn't fall asleep one night because my head was just like pounding.
Oh, yeah.
And I was trying to tell her about it, and she just started laughing at me. I was like, why are you laughing at me? She was like, okay, you finally like experienced some like hard, headache stuff. I'm like, yeah, and I couldn't fall asleep. She's laughing at me. She was like, we experience that all the time as girls. And I'm like, I'm just trying to share how I felt, and it was the end of the world to me. And she was like, yeah, we experience that pretty frequently.
She's basically like, get over it, dude.
Yeah,
like I deal with this all the time.
But it's like what? It's guy sick, right? Like we experience sickness so much harder than girls.
It's true, but you just, it's not something to change. It's just something to live with.
You gotta embrace it, man.
You gotta be like, you know what? This is how it is.
Oh my gosh, I have a headache. I can't do anything for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
You asked me to take the trash out. I need to lay down.
Yeah, I'll do it later.
It's okay. We can get away with it.
It's true. But yeah, man. So, we had a fun week together.
We did.
Last week, you got to film with Mr. Tyler Goodrich.
I did.
Record.
Yeah,
man,
record. I always mess with you when you say film because there's no cameras in here.
There's none.
Not yet. Hopefully, there's cameras at some point. That'd be awesome.
Hey, if you guys want that, let Hunter know.
Message the Instagram and we'll do our best. But yeah, Tyler was great. He's just a good friend, and it was cool to chat through kind of just his life and what he's walked through with loneliness. And I got to share a piece of when I fully experienced it, like real time in COVID, and what that did to me. Yeah. And it was cool, and it was just cool to have him in here to spend time with him. And yeah, you were out, though. You were onboarding a new staff member, which is fun.
That's right. Our team is growing, changing up a little bit, which is really exciting. Mm-hmm. So we just brought Mason on as our new seminary director.
So cool.
So he's gonna lead our seminary classes that we have with the high school next door, which is just amazing. So super excited for him, and he's overjoyed. And so seeing that is just great. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Yeah,
well, glad to have you back this week.
No, it's good to be back. Thank you
for
giving me the time.
Absolutely. We had fun in the Prescott Pines this week.
Oh, yeah.
UCYC for sermon planning retreat. Got some good things going for 2025 as a church, and we're back.
We're back, and today we have the pleasure of talking about self-help.
Yeah.
So there's a whole industry out there that's been coined the self-help industry. So it can be anything from books. That's probably the most common thing you think about is when you're thinking self-help. It's like, oh, the self-help section of the bookstore, or like Amazon self-help books, and they all come up and everything. But that includes seminars. There's a lot of different people out there putting on classes and everything that you can pay for or subscribe to, and it's supposed to optimize your life and make everything all better or whatever. And that's coaching, anything like that. And what's crazy is the self-help industry is actually valued somewhere in between $11 to $14 billion.
That's a lot of dollars.
Ton of money. So it makes sense that this is just something that is super common. Because when you got that kind of money running around in a particular topic or area or industry, man, everybody's going to want a piece of that because there's so much to take. And where
maybe I need to write a self-help book.
Maybe. But then that would go against what we're talking about today.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
But we bring this up because in the pursuit of a holy and healthy life, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to really start to think about the self and how if I want to live holy and healthy or things like that, I better get some things really figured out first. And it could be really easy to start thinking about, okay, I struggle with X, Y, or Z, and I should go read books on it, get better at it. I need to make more money to get myself more margin, like whatever your kind of thinking might go to. And what I think we want to do today is kind of look at the self-help industry, the culture around self-help, and how Jesus is actually a little countercultural in that sense. That when we look at self-help at its core, that Jesus is actually on the other end.
Yeah.
And he has something totally different to say than what the self-help industry might be trying to sell you. And we have some pretty strong convictions about it, I think, and we'll get into it. We have opinions. Again, I think it's well worth noting, like, we're not professionals. We aren't pros. We don't know everything, but we do have our observations.
Well, I'm a professional opinion haver.
Yeah. That's true. But we do have cultural observations. We pastor, we sit with people, we care for people. We help people grow in their relationships with God and their walks with Christ. And these are things we observe and we see. And so we hope to bring a helpful eye to this industry and the things that are out there and the lies they're trying to sell, the good that they are doing, and then the reality of what Jesus has for you and for me when it comes to who we are and how we carry ourselves in everyday life.
Yeah. Well, so, in all of Jesus' teachings, he's, normally giving us a new way out of our natural instinctive habit, and he's usually giving us a new way to be able to think through. And all of Matthew 5 towards the end, he's like, you've heard it said this, I say this. It's all countercultural.
Yep.
But putting ourselves first, being self-centered, thinking about ourselves is probably the most instinctive thing that we do.
Totally.
Is to put ourselves forward. In our world today, it preaches everything about self-centeredness. Like, do what's best for me. I deserve my me time. My needs are my priority. And we are obsessive and we're preoccupied as a generation with self-care.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, we are the most anxious, the most depressed, and the most stressed people. So there has to be something with this cultural obsession and disposition towards self-care, self-help, that isn't really helping ourselves out.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say, and Pastor Kirk Rochelle said this, maybe the issue isn't that we don't love ourselves enough. Maybe the issue is that we love ourselves too much. And we force ourselves into such a self way of thinking. Now, what we'll talk about today is, like Caleb said, dispositionally on kind of one side. I do believe that there is good to possibly things like therapy and maybe even books that you can read. But what I do believe, if the motive behind self-care is solely self-centered, then it's selfish.
Yeah.
But if the motive is to be mentally well, emotionally stable, physically strong, spiritually healthy, so that you can love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love others well, then I would say self-care isn't selfish.
Yeah.
But if you are jumping into these things just to maybe care about yourself the most, then we might be off a little bit. Philippians 2:3-4 says this: don't be selfish, don't try to impress others, be humble, thinking of others is better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So God says, don't do anything out of selfish ambition, when culture actually teaches us the opposite. We live in the treat yourself movement.
Yep.
You can't fully love others till you love yourself.
Yeah.
Put yourself first. Even to the point of, like, remove others from your life if they don't add value or make your life better or anything like that, because you come first.
Yeah.
So we're obsessed with ourselves.
It kind of makes me think about, and again, I think there's room for healthy boundaries and everything like that. But there was this pastor, and he was telling me this story about his mother-in-law, and it got to the point where, like, he's talking about how she would always do this, she would always do that, she would always just come over, and then she would like say things to his wife, which was her daughter, and it would cause like dissension between him and his wife and everything like that. And it got to the point where like he just sounded angry, and he started to get into all these things where he's talking about, so as a family, like me and my wife, we put these boundaries in place, and we decided we were just going to never talk to my mother-in-law again. She was no longer allowed in our house. She was no longer this, no longer that. And it just got like really intense. And again, I think there's room for boundaries. I mean, if someone's causing dissension between you and your wife, like there's some serious things to figure out there. But where I got like super uncomfortable was like, it just didn't sound like the heart of Jesus. And this was a pastor. And he was getting so mad. He was so mad at his mother-in-law. There was very little love, and the tone he was using, very little empathy and care for her and her difficulties she's struggling with. And it was just like, cut her out. Cut her out. She's done. She's trying to get in between me and my wife. No way. And I was like, whoa. And so when we talk about like self-care, self-help, I have a particular issue with when it gets there. Like it's just angry and very dehumanizing to other people. Mm-hmm. Where, you talk about, man, I got to protect me, all of that. So get everybody out of my life that isn't for me, all that. It's like, whoa, are we so insecure in ourselves that if anybody causes a little bit of a disruption in our life that like we just can't handle it? So we just cut them off. And that's a lot of what self-help will teach is do that. To give you an idea, there's this book, I found it. I just Googled some of the top self-help books of our time. And this title, I have never read this book. I know nothing about it. So if you read it and it's great, you can like let me know and everything. But just the title itself kind of gets the point across. You owe you. Tagline, ignite your power, your purpose, and your why. Just super me focused. It's super like you. Look at you. You're going to be the best. You're going to be the greatest. You're going to make all the money. You're going to have all the purpose. You're going to have all the power. And you're going to know exactly why you're doing it. I was like, all right, well. So there's an issue that Scripture tells us that when we put all the focus on ourselves is we give ourselves like kind of that God complex where it's all on me. It's all on me to figure it all out. It's all on me to be the best that I can be. It's all on me to do the right thing all the time. It's all on me to make all the right decisions. It's all on me to make all the money so that I can survive. It's all on me to do it all. And man, when you put that kind of burden on yourself, you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
You're going to be tired. You're going to get to a point in your life where you go, man, what did I do? And Jesus actually thinks quite paradoxically about all of this. There's a passage in Matthew 16, verses 24 to 25 that says this. Jesus said this to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciples must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Verse 25 is kind of where it gets into this. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? So Jesus is kind of flipping the script. He's saying, hey, if you want to save your life, which a lot of self-help is about saving yourself, getting yourself right, getting to the right place, getting enough money, getting the right relationship, putting yourself in the right circles so that you can be primed and ready for success and power and all of everything the world would say, man, I want that, and that's what I want my life to be marked by. It says whoever wants to save their life will lose it. You'll lose it. And if you go after all the success that all the self-help books offer, you're going to lose it. But whoever loses their life, for me, for Jesus, will find it. So if you give your life over to the life of Jesus, what he calls you to do, his words, he says, you will find life. Man, interesting.
Yeah.
It's so counter-cultural. It's so counter to the self-help movement, which is about, I wake up, I start my day, I do my exact routine at 5 o'clock. I make my cup of coffee in 5 minutes. I read this book for 10 minutes. I take 10 breaths and then I exhale it for 30 seconds and whatever. You just like optimize everything and then like everything's going to fall into place. But Jesus is like, hey, lose your life for me.
Yeah.
Give your life to me. And you'll find life that you could have never imagined.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. And also a little relieving, in my opinion. Because you read enough of the self-help stuff, and you're like, whoa, this is a lot. I don't know if I can do that. And when Jesus just says, hey, look at my teachings, follow me. And whatever his teachings, give up your life, take up your cross, love other people, love God, and you're good.
Yeah. I think part of why the movement that we're in now is as strong as it is because of the deny yourself, give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. Doesn't sound super appealing.
No way.
And the what was the name of that book? You do you or something?
You owe you.
You owe you.
Yeah.
Well, I hear that and I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. That's right.
I do. And I think it sounds appealing. And I would argue to say that as you're kind of on this process and step of caring about yourself, it feels right.
Yeah.
Like it feels right. Like you're doing this and you're like, yeah, like life is about me.
Yeah.
And it feels good. And as you read more things, sounds more appealing. And like you said, optimizing your life. And there might be things that you can find, principles and practices, putting those two words together. Might be things that you find that are actually great, but it feels right. But at the end of the day, focusing, if it's only for yourself,
Yep.
it's selfish and it's not good.
I think that's a good point.
And it's not true. It feels good.
Yeah.
But
it's a great point that you bring up, like the motive. Because not all self-help is bad.
no,
There's some great things about there. There's a book out there that would probably fall under the category of self-help called Atomic Habits. We've actually talked about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's a really good book, and it really helps you understand your mind, how it works, and how you can introduce good, strong habits in your life to just open yourself up to being able to love people better and care for others better and do those kinds of things. But again, with the wrong motive, you could read that book and be like, I'm going to optimize everything so great so that I can make a ton of money and I can live my own little happy life.
Which is, to each their own. But then the name of this podcast inherently is giving us the definition is you should be wanting to do these things because God has called you to a holy life, a holy standard, and you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
And if you're not healthy in a certain area and you need to get healthy there, then maybe there are some things that you can help yourself on.
Yeah.
But it's not helpful if it's selfish.
Yeah.
It's helpful if it's healthy.
Yeah. And it's not helpful if it means you're going to treat people poorly.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the root of where you're coming from too, is a lot of this self-help is so self-focused that it almost strips you away from others.
Yeah.
And it can literally make you feel like you are so important that anyone who doesn't add value to the way you want them to add value is either toxic or needs to be cut out of your life.
Yeah.
And there's what you brought up, like there are necessary boundaries that we should put in place.
Absolutely. I think that's super true.
I've heard it used this way, like if you have a family member who constantly at family gatherings is causing issues and things like that, and you continue to allow it to happen without having conversations, without putting like the bar and standard forward, what you are defaulting to is allowing your most unhealthy family member to start to set the standard.
Yeah.
And you don't want that, but you should be having conversations to allow that to happen. If it does come to a place where they're creating an incredibly unhealthy environment, you've done the best you can, you've had all the conversations, and then you are at a certain point to where you're like, oh my gosh, like legitimately, we care about you so deeply. We've asked you to do this because we love you. And then you start to have those conversations of like, maybe you just don't come anymore. But you have to exhaust everything first.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve others. But in a generation obsessed with ourselves, it's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, imagine you even setting the standard with the rest of the family, too. It's like, you could ignore it, right? And then it's like, okay. Everybody's like, well, why is this even allowed? What the heck? Like, this is so unreal. Like, this is horrible. It makes the time terrible. I don't want to be here. And so you ignore it, and probably not the best way to go about it.
Mm.
But then maybe you hit 10 right away, and you're like, you know what, this person's not even allowed to be in here. You blow up on them, and you're like, get out of here. You're never allowed to come again. And then you just showed the family that, oh, I better be on my best behavior. Not because it's the right thing to do or I'm loved or whatever. It's because I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to get blown up on because I messed up or got it wrong. You know, you start working with the family and going, you know, guys, you know, our brother Fred is coming again to this family gathering. And you all know he can be difficult. He can be hard, and he'll say things that are out of left field, and he'll put you guys down. He'll put us down. He'll say horrible things. Man, but he's our family. We love him. Okay? And we know that's not the way to act, but he hasn't figured that out yet. So we're going to work with him. We're going to do what we can. We're going to love him. We're going to welcome him into this family. We're going to encourage him. We're going to build him up, even when he doesn't deserve it. And you do that for a while, maybe Fred changes, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah.
But what you can't say is if you get a few, you know, family gatherings down the road and, you know, you do that for a year and it's like nothing's changed, then when you start to look at the family, you're like, guys, I'm going to have this conversation with Fred. And we're going to start limiting his involvement in the big gatherings. And maybe we start upping the involvement he has in like more one-on-one interactions with us as a family. Like we can't drop this guy. Yeah. He's our brother or he's our friend. And you just start changing the way it looks. But I just don't know if cutting people out entirely is like the way to go. I think there's, like you said, there's so many other avenues. And what you do there is you show the family that if you're kind of the one leading the charge on that, you show the family that, man, if any of you guys get off course, you're still a part of this family. Mm-hmm. And you're still loved, and you're still cared for, and you're still welcomed, always. Mm-hmm. What kind of confidence does that put into a family, into a person? And so I think there's just a beauty in that. I mean, if you got kids involved in that, like you start showing the kids what it looks like to care for people who are hard and love people who are difficult. Man, you want to talk about leaving a legacy. Man, it starts with doing the hard thing.
Yeah, and it starts with I think this is what you're talking about is the basis of being like value driven, not performance or goal driven. Yeah, like having strong family values of like, hey, you know, we value our relationship with the Lord. We value being generous. We value whatever your family values you have. Those are your kind of guidelines and rules, but they're values. Like this is who we are as a family. And so if someone's off of the values, then you bring them back. Be like, values are things. They're your whys. They're the reason why. Like, why do you do this? Well, why do I value generosity? Well, because it says, you know, God loves a cheerful giver. But also, I've seen generosity actually play out in my life. And when I'm generous, like what I'm hoping to receive happens when I give. Yeah. Then you start to feel these different values play out. And that's what you can draw these people back to. Yeah. So starting with those is always helpful. But I think even the problem with Fred, who you made up, is his obsession with himself. Yeah. Not allowing himself to mold to a family, to a set of social behaviors and values that maybe this family has. Again, it's this problem to believe that your life is more important than everyone else's. Yeah. And I think the reason we're talking about this today, and I think one of my bends, is if we're not careful, the state of our culture with the obsession of self will slowly get to our church, and I think possibly we're there, to where we become self-centered Christians, to where we approach God and church and we live as though if God and the church exists to serve us. And if that's how our books are, if that's how our podcasts are, if that's how our TV shows are to just serve us and to make us better and to only focus on ourselves, we can make God and we can make church a selfish place.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place.
It is.
One of the reasons why it's dangerous is because what Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy 3. And I'm going to read the first 5 verses, and it's kind of wild. He says, "You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times." Are we in the last days? I don't know. "For people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than loving God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that can make them godly." Stay away from people like that. And that to me, just even the last piece, Paul's advice, stay away from people like that. It's so dangerous. And the piece of it is they will act religious but reject the power that can make them godly. And if what we're doing this for is to be holy, it's to be healthy. Being religious, coming to church, attending services, even being in a small group, even serving. Those are religious things. They're religious practices. But if we're not careful, if we're so obsessed with self, we will lose out on the power that makes us godly.
Which is just so not a fun way to think.
No.
It's so much. I mean, we're in this collection of talks as a church right now called Control Freak. Actually, I think we just finished it.
Yeah.
But it was all about, I mean, like, self-help is super driven behind control. Is I want to control my life. I want it to be mine. I want to be able to stand up at the end of the day and say, I have what I have. I've built what I've built because of me. And the ways of Jesus is really all about, I have what I have. What's built has been built because of the grace of God.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me. I have no idea why it happened. I don't know why we're here. I don't know why it's so great from a worldly point of view. But all I can say is it had to have been God because it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Like, to just have that be your mindset all the time, it's so good for your brain. And so I think instead of being all about self-help, it should be all about helping others.
Yeah.
Like, if you are so, like, mentally unstable or struggling that you cannot think of others, you should really pursue a way to start serving and thinking about others. Like, that should be an end goal.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like, man, I just need to be alone. I need to figure out my life. I need to isolate before I can ever go do anything with other people. Like, I think one of the most healing things is for people to be in community.
Yeah.
Even if you are like, man, I am like, I don't even know if I can mentally, like, sit next to someone. It's like, dig deep, ask God for the strength to go be in a community because it will heal you. A godly community will heal you. Yeah. Start serving other people. Start making something for someone else. Make someone else some food. Buy someone something from the store. I don't know. I like. I just bought some of those mini Sun Chips in the Pringles cans. Those tubes. You know what I'm talking about, dude? These things are unreal. Like, someone sat at a table and said, "How do we make these better?" And someone said, "Shrink them and put them in a tube." And it's phenomenal. I would buy that over the bag. I'm serious.
Why'd you go there?
Okay, it just popped in my head. I was just thinking, go to the store, think of a person, buy something for them. Okay? Like, I don't know. If that's really you, you are so self-centered that you can't even walk through a store and say, I'm going to buy a $2 item and I'm going to go give it to them. Like, just do that, and I'm telling you, the smile you put on someone's face will literally do something to your soul. I mean, that's just how Jesus made it to be, is to just not be self-centered, to think about other people. What's the passage? The second. What's so funny?
You just fully, no one can see what you just did, but you fully sat up, grabbed the boom mic arm, and just like
Yeah.
soapbox that thing.
Yeah, it was great.
I don't know what passage you're talking about.
No, because I haven't said it. I'm gonna say it.
Go for it.
The second commandment is like it, love your neighbor.
Okay. Yeah. It's Mark 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second is like this. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
Which is first, love your neighbor as yourself as a given. It's because you're gonna love yourself.
Yeah.
So
that's
love,
what I'm
love
saying.
your neighbor. Yeah.
So all this self-help where you're like, man, I just got to figure out me, get me figured out.
God knows you love yourself.
He does. And he says, love other people that way.
Yeah.
Stop
Exactly.
doing it for yourself.
Yep.
Go do it for others.
Yep.
What? He flips it all upside down.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like do to other people what you like what they do to you. It's like not repay evil with evil and good with good. Like it's none of that. It's what would you like done to you? So I'm thinking, man, I would love if someone bought me some sun chips in a tube. But you know what I should actually do? I should buy sun chips in a tube for someone and go give it to them. Because I would love if someone did that to me. So I like literally the passage is saying, if I would love that done to me, forget me having it done to me. Go do that to someone else.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I just
sorry, I just got really excited. You know,
you
sun
just got
chips
really
in a tube,
excited
man.
about sun chips in a tube, bro.
If you're listening and you've had them, you know what I'm talking about.
I have no clue. what
You've
you're
never
talking
had
about.
them?
I've had sun chips, but I've never had them in a tube.
Okay, I'm
like
gonna
a
go.
Pringles
Do you
can.
like Harvest Cheddar, Garden Salsa? I think those are the two they got right
Garden salsa is my favorite.
now. Okay, brother, you're gonna change your life. I'll
Okay,
get them
cool.
for you.
So here's my caveat too. With everything you said, absolutely. Now, when Jesus brings this stuff up, love your neighbor as yourself. He knows, like you said, we already love ourselves. So love your neighbor like that. Love your neighbor as if you're loving yourself. Put other people first. Love them like that. In what you're saying, and you're giving people an example. You can go and do this. You can go and serve
Absolutely.
people this way. You
Totally.
can go and do that. Here again is where it's all about motive. And motive is what you know and what God knows, possibly what your spouse knows. Motive is all in the heart.
Yeah.
God knows the heart. Now, and you know it too. So if you're going to do this and like you want to do that, do it out of wanting to honor God and glorify Him and also serve people, not because it was one of the check boxes in your self-help book.
Facts.
Go and help someone out.
Yeah.
Go and serve someone. Go, they're not going to say serve. Go and buy something nice for someone because
Yeah,
of what it'll make you feel.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it just because it'll make us feel something. We want to do it
that's
because
good.
it's obedient and because it's healthy for everyone involved. So like exactly what you're saying. Again, everything always comes back to motive.
Yeah.
It does. It comes back to why are you doing this? Because Jesus doesn't call us to promote ourselves even though we probably want to be promoted. He doesn't call us to pamper ourselves even though pampering ourselves would be great. Or serve ourselves even though it would be nice to be served. Or put ourselves first even though it would be nice for people to put ourselves first. Or to seek our own pleasure. Like we want to have pleasures in this life.
Yeah.
But if that is our motive, then we'll miss out. Because Jesus calls us to humble ourselves, deny ourselves, serve others, put ourselves last, and pursue God's purpose over everything. It's all about motive. And if those things happen, that's great. We're going to have pleasures in this life. Yeah. But what's the intent? What's the motive?
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's listening who, man, they have a really hard time getting the right motive?
Yeah.
But they're like, you know what? I do want to attempt this, do something for someone else, and I get nothing out of it kind of thing. What would be something someone could do where they will get, like, it'd be really nice that they did it. And as long as they don't tell someone they did it, they will get zero recognition for it. And it's like, I didn't do this to help me or anything because it literally only hurt me. Like, I spent money or something, or I spent time that I cannot get back. But nobody knows I did that except for me.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I think of is just praying for someone else.
Okay, that's great.
Like finding your own time, one, for you to connect with God, and you to know Jesus and you to actually get to pray. But in yourself, thinking of someone and intentionally praying for them, it does not cost you anything. But God moves through prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So greater than a physical gift or a financial gift or, I don't know, an emotional gift you can give someone.
Yeah.
The gift of prayer, the power that can be bestowed upon someone through your prayer, through God moving.
Yeah.
I start there. It doesn't cost you. It's not 1 cent per prayer type thing. It's I think if you're not willing to pray for someone, you probably shouldn't buy them a Pringles can either. So I think like if you're willing to like meet God there for them,
Yeah.
and then be able to extend that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Fred again in your story.
Good old Fred.
Like doing all of those having all those conversations, trying to set healthy boundaries, trying to even help him out. If you haven't even prayed for him, I mean, you've started behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
like
good. So pray.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the easiest thing that you can do.
And tell no one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't even tell the person.
Yeah.
Don't even be like, I prayed for you.
Well, one of the things
Don't do
that
it.
out of all of this, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is to live I forget what passage it is, but it's to live a quiet life of obedience, working with your hands. That's literally the verse. Like one of our calling is to live a quiet life of obedience, working with your hands, seeking nothing. Which I think comes to, my like heart of this is really self-care, self-love. And we want to love ourselves, but we can't self-love ourselves into happiness. And we can't self-care our way into meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
We have to be able to find our satisfaction in God's love, not in our love for ourselves, because it will always be fleeting. But 1 Corinthians 13, if we're going to be loving towards ourselves, we have to know what love is. Because a lot of the time, self-love isn't love. Because in 1 Corinthians 13, it says love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not proud, it doesn't dishonor others. It says it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs, which is a massive one. That's what God does. He doesn't keep a record of our wrongs, especially after we believe.
Yeah.
The certificate of sin, certificate of debt, that's been wiped out.
Yeah.
No record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So
good.
Love, that is what we are supposed to be carrying. Now take that in the self-care mindset. I don't know if self-love fits there.
Yeah.
Especially because it says love is not self-seeking.
Yeah.
But if we're really loving, if we want to care for ourselves the most, then probably we should be loving people the most.
Yeah.
You should be spending time with God the most, because then you're going to get what you want most.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area where we've tricked our brain. Again, we're the most obsessed with ourselves that, I don't know, maybe any culture ever has been. But we're the most anxious, we're the most stressed, we're the most depressed. Maybe it's because we love ourselves too much. And maybe if we swang more towards what Jesus and Paul and everyone else is actually saying, we would start to feel the care for ourselves that we want. We'd start to feel the love for ourselves that we want.
Yep.
But nowhere in Scripture are we going to find that Jesus says, just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself in whatever way that you do.
Yeah.
It always revolves it back around community and serving.
Even if it means hurting people, that's not the way to do it.
Well, it says, love is not proud. It does not dishonor others.
Yeah.
Not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like I know people that literally keep a record of wrongs. That they're almost like, I'm not even going to talk to these people anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, dog, it keeps no record of wrongs.
Yeah.
Which is so hard. I mean,
it's hard.
I'm guilty of
It's
that.
hard. Yeah.
It's hard to
definitely want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Life is difficult. It has its hardship. There's a reason
You're good.
The industry is anywhere from 11 to 14 billion dollars.
Yeah.
It's like life's hard, and if people feel like they can get a leg up in life by reading a few books here and there and implementing some strategy, then it makes sense why you gravitate towards it and grab it.
I'm one of the biggest proponents for personal development.
Oh, absolutely.
I am all about it.
Yeah, and let's circle back to improving your life, like being better with your time, being smarter with your money, like things like that. Getting resources to help you with that. That is not inherently bad.
So there's a difference between stewardship and selfishness.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of self-help books out there that can be read from the perspective of, I want to steward the things I have well.
100%.
Again, we go back to what you were saying. Motive. Is it all about you? Like, do you want to be better with your finances because you want to be rich and you want people to see that you have a lot of money? Because if that's your motive, man, like you're digging yourself into a hole. But if you're like, man, I have limited resources. I have a wonderful job by the grace of God. And the money I do have, I want to do the right thing with it. I want to be able to take care of other people. I want to have the margin to serve others, to take care of my family and do that. Then, man, your motive seems to be more in line with Christ than with selfishness. And you just got to ask yourself the question, like, am I doing this because I want to be flashy and showy and I want people to see? Or am I doing it because I want to take the things God has given me and do the best I can with it? Because you're right. Like, I'm with you. Like, being healthy, like, I mean, we called the podcast Holy and Healthy. Like, we want to be healthy. We want our bodies to be healthy. We want to take care of ourselves. But not at the expense of dehumanizing other people, elevating yourself above others. What's that passage? You actually had it pulled up on your phone, I believe, earlier in your notes. About don't think yourself better than...
Philippians 2:3-4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. Thinking of others is better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too.
Yeah, come on. Like right there. So, yeah, personal development, things like that, very good. If you are starting to display characteristics that are not Christ-like because of your pursuit of bettering yourself, you might want to start checking some things out.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is in your priorities. Like what the decisions you make, what are the priorities that you're setting? Do you end up choosing yourself over others? Or you end up choosing yourself over time with God, or choosing yourself over, and like, sure, there's moments where you do need that personal development piece, but are you stewarding your life well? Yeah. Or are you being selfish?
Yeah.
And yeah, again, that's where you're going to have to go to God and be like, hey, search my heart. Point on anything that offends you. Yep. Lead me in the life everlasting. I test me. Like, figure myself out. You're going to have to do that.
Dude, the scary thing is selfishness works.
Again, it sounds appealing and it feels right.
But like from a worldly point of view, it works.
It does. I mean, it's a business like that for a reason. That's why I said I should write a self-help book.
Right? It's how...
make a lot of money.
It's how people climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something we're necessarily super exposed to as leaders and pastors at a church. But, man, from what I can tell, it's like a dog-eat-dog world out there. You better look out for number one if you want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But, man, it's a sad way to live.
It is. And that's why you talk to people in the corporate world, and they're at times feeling kind of messy.
I mean, that's why
it's hard.
You get the top of the ladder, for the few who do. And a verse like this just kind of digs right in. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?
Yeah.
Like, you made it to the top, but you gave up everything you ever really wanted.
Yeah. Reminds me of this song that Luke Combs just came out with that I showed you guys in the car on the way home from retreat.
Our little country jam.
Yeah. The Front Door Famous song. He's talking about being he's a performer and he gets to play out sold out shows.
You really messed up David with that one, man.
I did mess up David with that one. But the thing out of all of it that he loves the most and that he cares about most is being front door famous.
Yeah.
When he walks home, his son's like, dang, my dad's home,
Yeah.
Like, he freaks out. We all see those videos on Instagram and stuff, on Instagram Reels, when a dad comes home and the kids freak out, and there's just something about it. And I think the priorities can quickly shift. I was listening to a guy on Instagram, I don't remember his name, but he said, at my company, if you prioritize your work over your daughter's recital, you're fired.
Ooh.
And I don't know how many companies I think they'd flip it.
Yeah.
If you're willing to go to your daughter's recital, you're fired. Like, what's the movie, Elf?
Yeah.
If you walk out of here, you're fired.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
so
he
true.
he picks Buddy the Elf over staying in that work meeting on Christmas Eve or whatever.
Did you know that there is, like, literally the last, like, year or two that I've watched Elf during Christmas season, it hit me how meta that movie is.
Why is it meta?
Because the movie is the story of how they wrote the book at the end of the movie.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
No, so, like, at the end, because I think he does get fired or something, but then he writes the book Elf, like Walter and
Yes.
family write
Yeah.
the book Elf,
Yeah.
and that's how it ends. But the movie started as that, like, storybook, and then it morphs into the live action, and then it ends back into that kind of picturesque illustration of the book. And the movie is that book, and the ending is them writing that book. Am I off here? No, dude, I
Only
swear.
slightly.
No, that's how it ends.
The whole movie is the story.
That
and
is
then
in
how
the book.
They intro it with the book and exit with the book, but the book was written at the end.
Yeah, the book was written at the end, but
Yeah.
we watched the movie of the book that was written at the
No,
end.
we watched the movie that turned into the book. We
No.
didn't watch the movie of the book because the book happens as soon as it ends.
Yeah, but it's like super meta.
Yeah.
You know how you read a book and people will tell you, I don't read a lot of, is it nonfiction? I always mix
The
the two.
true ones?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the fake ones.
No, that's fiction.
I don't read a lot of fiction books, but I hear when you really get into it and you read it, it feels like there's a movie playing in your head. That's what Elf is, but it's really happening.
But
He's narrating the story, but if you were reading it, the movie is what would be playing in your head.
it's true.
It's-
Yeah.
All right. We don't have to go too far into that.
We
But-
should probably stop.
Yeah, let us know if you think I'm crazy. No, but you're so right. You want your priorities to be right.
Yeah.
And
Priorities and motives.
self-help books can sometimes put priorities in the wrong spot
Hmm.
if you're not careful.
Yeah. You don't want to progress your life forward in a selfish way, but sometimes you do need to put choices in the right perspective to make life better for yourself only when it is to prioritize your health, your physical, emotional, spiritual, mental health, so that God is most glorified through your satisfaction in Him and also through your obedience to what He's asked you to do, so that you can love others really well. That is when we choose personal development. That is when we reprioritize, is so we can be the best version of ourselves. And the best version of ourselves is the one that's submitted, the one that denies yourself, the one that loves God, that loves others, and also loves yourself.
Yeah.
But love yourself is not a command because it's an assumption.
yeah.
God knows that we love ourselves. So I think a question that I'll ask, and two questions I'll ask to sort of challenge us out. Like, in what area of your life are you prioritizing self-love over loving God and others? And then, what do you feel like God is calling you to do about it? So what area of your life do you feel like maybe you're prioritizing self-love over loving God and others? And then what is God calling you to do about it?
That's great.
Yeah.
Are you asking me or
I don't
for
know.
people to think about it in the car or
just sit and
while
think
they're
about it
working
for a
out or
little bit.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to kind of end it, too.
Yeah.
Because it's not really about what we have to say anymore.
Yeah.
It's about what God's doing in your life and your heart.
True. So should we end it?
We should end it.
Cool. What are we talking about next week? Do you know? I don't know yet.
Why would you do that to me? I don't know. Guys.
It's got to get you healthy, bro.
It's going to be a surprise.
You out here coughing like a
I know.
smoker, bro.
But I don't do that.
You don't.
Yeah. Let's make it very clear. I do not do that.
Yeah, you freaking eat
Yeah.
Sunchip Pringles.
Dude, oh my gosh. I'm going to get you some.
Out of serving, not out of selfishness.
I mean, I'm probably going to buy me some too.
Not broken your own rule.
It's a start.
I mean, I don't think so, but you're probably fine. See ya.
Anyways, later, guys.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it to others that you think would benefit from it. Also, we'd love if you could share this on social and tag at RockPointYA just to let us see, like, what is God doing through this podcast. We make this for you, and we make this for other people to become holy and healthy in their lives. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Leave us a review, send it to others, and man, we hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for spending some of it with us.